someone happens to fall in the crack of the system more times than not, is that crack really a crack, or is something fundamentally wrong with the system? My whole life, I've had chaos occur in the background. Chaos was a default. Being one of 7 kids amongst a blended family, this is a given. Unfortunately, this chaos shared additional experiences that could be classified as traumatic. However, despite the death of my mother and sister, I remain very in tune with my emotions. I've always had a way with words. I had to be, as a middle child. But knowing how I felt and why I felt that way was how I got through these momentous events. Regardless of the chaos surrounding me, I remained cool, calm, and collected. I dove into community involvement, school clubs, additional theater productions. As leading my choir and as a grade student, I made a life for myself outside the scope of what epic umbrellas of various medical system physicians chooses to define me under. My mother's choices do not define me. My sister's choices do not define me. The external events making up my past do not define me. It is this thought process that causes people like me to create walls when disclosing our past because of powerful people laying down glass ceilings that keep us locked in. Any person who can free herself from the chaos of background noise, crowding accomplishments, and real amazing achievements would be so proud and exhilarated to move out and attend a university with more scholarships than one can count on both their hands. I was my community's poster child. Most importantly though, I was healthy, physically, mentally. Even with things happening to those around me, I grieved in the right ways. I was okay. I talked it out in therapy, caps, like an open book. And soon enough, I thrived. When life doesn't give you lemons, you must shake the tree. I shook the tree my whole life and sought out lemons never offered to me. When I started to feel unwell, I stopped being able to do that. I stopped being able to do anything. This was recently blamed. This is 2 years ago. This was recently blamed on my ADHD. This was not a factor of my cognitive decline. I have always had ADHD. I know its restrictions, ways around them, and how it affects me. Also, when taking my medication, I've always been able to focus, but even without it, I could use my strategies to make it work too. It was when I noticed a series of things that weren't okay that I sought out help. I used my minimal energy to find medical professionals to seek out lemons. I trusted them with my care. However, this was more than 3 years ago. And since then, my patience has dried up. I'm itching to enjoy the fruits of my labor, or whatever is left of it. I have plans. My life matters. Friends, families, peers, professors describe me as outgoing, empathetic, bubbly, outspoken, good listener, and a hard worker. I was resilient, yet vulnerable to the world. Even with what your team describes my symptoms as psychiatric, my peers can attest that this was never an issue when things were the hardest in terms of traumatic events. As for the learning disability, this was easily fixed with my medication and additional studying. The medication actually made me so focused to the point that I would not speak to my peers or act social. So I did not take it on work days or when I had to be social. I avoided it because it made me abnormal because I was so focused and less cool, calm, and collected. I followed the psychic over a while. I did the medications, I continued therapy, despite already knowing how to cope in my best way, and despite already working through these past issues with therapy. I was forced to dig up trauma because the doctors made me believe this was all in my head. All the medications I tried, and all the questioning of my own judgment and intuition only added to the stress of my physical symptoms in the end because none of them helped at all, not even the tiniest bit. Unfortunately, it only hurt me in all areas of my life. This is trauma. In the end, I was left off worse. This stalled further delaying finding the truth to my symptoms. It is reasonable for a person to feel tempered or angered after being ignored or gaslighted for so long by those meant to help them. Understandably, a doctor may see this for the first time and not recognize that this may be something the patient has had to explain multiple times to providers. Yet, if a patient must keep repeating to doctors and explaining oneself, even when one of the symptoms includes not having the words to do that, how would you feel? I bet you would feel overwhelmed because you do not want to steer your doctor in the wrong direction like it seemed to do every other time before, but you must also find a way to channel your energy to do it. And at what trade-off? At this point, the issue is that I have been misguided for so long and told to hold on or wait a little longer that I now feel scared because my life is waiting on the help of doctors who continue to disregard my symptoms and underanalyze my behaviors as surface level symptoms to a psychological issue. I can't help but ask if I would be treated the same had I had a cookie cutter family history, or if I were older, or if I were a man. No matter what I do or say, no matter how much effort I put into working this system, I continue to be misunderstood or ignored by preconceived notions. I express my thoughts over emails and messages best. My doctors have been told multiple times that I have a poor memory, or I'm finding it even worse to find the words to describe myself in real time. Rather, I resort to messages that I can be typed on my own time. Yet, both of these continue to be used against me. If I wasn't angry, if I didn't push, if I didn't ask questions, if I didn't seek answers, if I didn't schedule appointments, if I didn't show up for my appointments, if I didn't drive nearly an hour for any sort of lab, if I didn't type up those memos, then one might be able to consider me depressed enough to cause physical damage to my thalamus. Unbalanced hormones, night sweats, weak immune system, inability to wake up, fatigue, memory loss, and poor retention. Worsening eyesight, eye pressure, defocusing, blur, compressed spine, ENT issues. Maybe then someone might be able to convince themselves that this was in my head. Even though this case also seems unlikely to be valid. However, this is not the case. I do everything I need to do to make sure I can pay rent, have food, get appointments, push for tests, and convince certain doctors to try. And I continue to do it no matter how much it affects me. However, I'm getting fed up and flustered because this is exhausting. My arms are exhausted from juggling this with the job that I need and an education that I invested in, all the while not having any compassion from almost all the doctors or any slack from the medical system. You blame me for feeling unwell and getting mad that I am still unwell, yet you have not allocated the correct time, resources, and energy to make me not unwell. You continue to circle back to old ideas, essentially refusing to help me, but not telling me, and again, wasting my time. It has become so easy for doctors to diagnose basic stable emotions that any person experiencing a delayed diagnosis would feel. Yet these universal emotions are all too easily classified as specific neuropsychiatric diagnoses for people like me. Even despite my long list of physical and more specific symptoms, none of these get any validation or investigation whatsoever. I must seek additional help for all my issues. Either give it everything for a chance to get better or have no chance at all. I literally have no choice. But when you are brought back, full circle back to square one, when you have worsening symptoms that impede in all areas of your life, any reasonable person left without answers and with so much fatigue will become angry and frustrated. If a bully keeps pushing down a kid on the playground over and over and over again, with no one speaking out to help, the kid is bound to push back, and rightfully so. Yet in this situation, you are giving me detention rather than taking a closer look at the full picture. You are labeling me as the delinquent. The problem, and as a young woman, needing to explain myself over and over and over again to a male figure who literally has my life in his hands, it becomes unapparent when these doctors are truly seeing the patient rather than the woman or young adult or child from a broken home who must clearly be broken too. Must I actually smile on these appointments and accept false leads that have already been reasonably sought? Must I not speak up for myself? Is being a self-advocate a reason for doctors to label you emotional, irrational, and irritable? Does the quality of care I receive depend on the ability to remain cool, calm, collected in a completely uncool situation? Does the medical world get to decide who gets care based on their identity, sex, family history, or mood? I make myself small every day. I have a big personality, as you can tell. I have so many ideas. I long to make a difference in this world, I really do. But I have to let things go, pick my battles, tuck away my plans, decline opportunities, and continue to settle for less because I can't make the critical steps to what I aspire to be at the time of my life, where it matters most. However, what's worse is that I must make myself small over and over again, further accentuating the need to hide my emotions, overthink my answers, bite my tongue, and do it all with a smile because if I don't make myself small and sweet, my doctors prolong attempting to find real answers. Rather, they discredit my symptoms, ignore potential leads, discount my judgment and knowledge in my own body, limit my options, disrespect my time, and everything I've said before. So in sum, I have been placed in an itty-bitty box that is left on the back shelf and told to wait and obey. However, it's been 3 years and this box has become insufferable, at least at some holes. I want out. I want answers. I want effort. I want to be listened to. So yes, I am angry and rightfully so. And yes, I am anxious and rightfully so. There is no timeline or effort from those who have the power to help me, yet I am labeled in the need of psychological help, of showing anxiety and anger. If I go to different specialists with my many symptoms to treat each issue without the umbrella cause, I'm going to look like a hypochondriac because it's a long list of abnormal things that they won't provide a correct diagnosis for. But if I don't disclose the clues at all or prior findings from other providers, everything will seem incidental. And we will end up wasting time following false leads, just blaming chronic sinus burning on a sudden development of severe allergies that no antihistamine or nasal spray over 3 years contain. So often do doctors sum up explicit symptoms to a rare coincidence that aids in the common diagnosis without substantial claims, but they dismiss clear logic and probability that these rare symptoms are not a coincidence and of something entirely different. They try so hard to see horses among hoofbeats that subjective reasoning overlooks the clear stripes of black and white until blue in the face. I am a zebra. Our doctors are supposed to be our healers. They earn great power and credibility after years of hard work. However, this power lies in the hands of the subjective I can't say it, guys. In my experience, this power is dependent on helping those who only fulfill or who look a certain way. Those who are aligned with deeply written status quo of what looks trustworthy, drama-free, of relatable appearances and assumed dominance, thus categorizing the rest of us as stigmas who are destined to receive repetitive and unnecessary diagnostic testing along with delayed diagnostic processes. Whether our doctors are choosing to be comfortable in their process, avoiding the possibility of being wrong, and or stigmatizing a patient from comfort and confidence and virtue, fueled by the discomfort and misfortunes of those patients' pain, time, and loss of life. But when did a doctor's sense of pride and worth become more than my literal life? Call me angry, call me anxious, call me depressed. Discount my worth and credibility, but if I am what you make me out to be, and if my dramatic past gives weight to this claim, then hear me when I say I know depression, and this is not it. I am not giving up finding answers because I was born and bred in chaos. I know it's home. if I can be heard as a middle child of 7 when my voice wasn't even my own and when I knew very little about the negligence that lay outside the walls of my home, then I will find a way to be heard and won't stop until someone takes me seriously and changes the way our medical system profiles those who need help most. Do better, innovative medicine. Do better, doctors. My life and other people's lives are counting on it. It's not a crack if entire groups of vulnerable people fall into it. It's a hole, a really big hole. I just want to quick say that the sinus burning thing that the doctor sent me home for the day that I wrote this, I had sewer gas exposure in my apartment, and my sinuses were abnormally shaped, so I needed sinus surgery a year later, and those gases were fuming in my sinuses because there were little holes. They weren't open. Now they're open, and they really like air. They actually hate it. It feels like a brain freeze all the time. I'm not used to it. But so the two rare things that I have that I figured out on my own with my education here, from my honors education, the critical thinking classes, the research from my journalism classes, everything. I put that into figuring out what was wrong with me. I signed up for residency courses online. I learned endocrinology myself, and I pushed those doctors, even though they blame me. I ended up having panhypopituitarism. Ooh, what is that? It's a pituitary disease. I have 3 adenomas on my pituitary gland, and they've been there my whole life. So since puberty, I've just slowly been getting worse. I don't make hormones. I went through menopause. I have an adrenal insufficiency. I have hypothyroidism. I have all the hormones are gone. So I have to replace them. But now I'm at a point where I'm trying to figure out how can we fix this? How can we remove those? They want to wait till they reach macro status to remove them. I don't. I think that's risky and wrong. But I was right. And so anyone who is feeling unwell, don't hold off like me, like I did in high school and through college. Don't put yourself in so many activities. Listen to yourself and just listen to your body. Because your intuition is right every time, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Don't let anyone question your gut, because your gut is right every time. I promise you. Thank you.